Hey everyone, welcome back to Code with Poonam. In today's video, we are diving into an essential date and time challenges that will sharpen the JavaScript skills and also help us to tackle the real world problems. We will cover here how to determine the day of a week from a given date, format the current date and time in a readable way, check if a date is in a future, and even create a weekend checker. These challenges are crucial for coding interviews and projects involving time-based logic. So please grab a notebook, follow along, and let's explore these exciting date and time problems. And if you get stuck anywhere on any question, please drop a comment. I am here to help. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more coding content. And let's get started with our first question. We are going to solve a fun problem, that is finding the day of a week from a given date. Okay, so we will proceed with this challenge and we will move to our VS Code. In the VS Code, we have our question along with the input and output, right? So what is the question? Write a function that takes a date and returns the corresponding day of the week, right? And here, for example, what is the input? Input is given as a 5th December, right? And we have here output as a Thursday. So if we check, we will get as a 5th December 2024 as a Thursday itself. So it should return what? Weekday, day of the week it should return, right? That is what it has been asked. So let us come here and we will break down this particular question. So we will come here and we will write here what? JS function. Okay. Now after that, what is the important part of this question? That it should take the date and it should return us the corresponding day of the week, right? So that also I will put it over here. Okay. Now in the line number 4, what do we have? In line number 4, we have our input, right? That is what? Our date, correct? That is 5th December and output is what? Thursday. So if we check, as I told you, if we are going to check our 5th December, it is going to give us a Thursday only. So that is what we have got it. We will be checking different dates as well so that we will get the correct idea how it is going to work that as well. Okay. Now let us come here and what we will do, we will give here our function name. So our function name will be what? Find day of week. This will be our function name. With the parenthesis, we are going to keep it. Okay. Now let us understand our line number 8 and we will write our approach. So I'll come here and I will write here what? Approach. So let us come here and we will write here the approach. Okay. Now what approach we are going to use it here is we will be using here a date constructor function. Now since it is a constructor function, we have to write it along with a new keyword, right? Like this. Now why with a new keyword? Because it is going to create an instance of the date object, correct? Now why I am saying we have to get our date object? Because this date object is going to provide a method that will help us to extract the day of the week from a given date. So what is that method which is going to provide? It is nothing but the get day. But here we have one small trouble. This get day is not going to provide you Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. No, it will provide you a number. What number? So this get day method returns a number from 0 to 6. So we consider 0 as our Sunday. And then what will be the 6? It is going to be what? Saturday. This is how it has to be considered. So 0 will be what? Sunday. Then 1 will be your Monday. 2 will be your Tuesday. And so on. It will go till 6. So 6 will be your Saturday. So that is what your get day is going to return from 0 to 6 number. And we have to understand that it is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like that from the numbers. So how can we address this then? So what we will do, we will create one more variable, or we can say we will create an array. So what we will do, we will create an array with a called as a day names. Okay. So now what we will do, for that we are going to create an array. Now why array we are going to create? Okay. Because if you see 0 is Sunday, 1 is Monday. So our array starts from 0th index, right? So we can create an array and we can assign this day of the week over there. And whenever it is 0, then we can use that array and we can get our day of the week, right? So let us come here and declare it and keep it so that we can use it later on. So I will write here what? Const day names is equal to, and in this first I will write here what? Sunday. Okay. Then I will write here what? Monday. So let us create it and keep. So Monday, and then Tuesday, after that Wednesday. So let us write here that as well, Wednesday. And then we have what? Thursday. So that also I'll write here. Then we have Friday, and the last one will be what? Saturday, right? So let us write it here. So we have successfully returned this. So this will be the array. Now let me uncomment this out. Now we will what do? We will just console this out, okay? So console.log, and I will write here what? Day names of one, suppose I write. And now let us test it in the terminal. So I'll write here what? Node, and we will write here day 44 challenge, and you see you got Monday. So that means it is easily accessible, right? So we can use this very correctly, okay? So I'll just comment it right now. And also I want to show you about the date as well. Now this we have seen, right? Now let us go to this particular line number 11, and let us understand this as well. Now how to write it? So let us come here and we will declare a variable called as a today's date, okay? Let us see how this date object works, okay? So I will come here and I will write here what? First I will call this constructor, right? And I will just console it, okay? So console.log, and I will write here what? Today date, okay? Now let us test it in the terminal. What do we get? Node day 44 challenge, I will hit enter. We get our today's date, right? So whenever you are just passing a empty here, it is going to give you today's date. If you're checking tomorrow, then it will give you the tomorrow's date. Since I am checking today, so today's date it is going to give me. Now in this, what I can do, in this I can pass this string over here, okay? Now as soon as I pass the string over here, what will happen? It is going to give me this particular date. So let us see that. So I will write here what? Node day 44 challenge, and I will hit enter. So what do you get? Now you are getting as a 5th December. You were getting 1st December, but now you are getting what? 5th December. So this is how your date constructor function works. So if you pass it something, it is going to return that particular date. Otherwise, it will return you the today's date. Now on this today date, you can use your get day and you can extract the number. And that number we are going to pass it over here, okay? So that we will be seeing it up, okay? So now let us come down and we will define our function, okay? So I'll write here what? Function. And I will write our function name as what? Find day of week, okay? And after this, we are going to quickly invoke it. So I will write here find day of week, and in this we are going to pass our date string. So I will take from here and I will put it over here, and we are passing as an argument, right? And we are going to receive here as a param. So I will just write here what? Date, and we will just console this out. So I will write here what? Console.log date, and before testing in the terminal, I will just comment this out, okay? So let us comment this out, and we will clear the terminal now, and we will rerun it, right? So now what do we get? We get our date string, right? So we are getting this. Now what we are going to do? Now we have to create our date object. So I will write here what? Const date obj I will write here. So I'll create a date obj variable, and in this we are going to store our date object. So what we are supposed to write? New, and this will be capital date, right? And in this we are supposed to pass our date, right? We have seen here that if we don't pass the date, then we will get our today's date. If we pass our own date, we will get our date, right? So that is what we needed. So I will just come here and we will console this out. Console.log date obj, right? So let us come here and rerun it now. I will write here node day 44 challenge, and I will hit enter. So what do we get now? If you see here, this was a date string, and here we are getting our date, right? So exact date we are getting. Now since this is our date object, in this what we are going to use? We will be using our method, okay? So we will come here, and what we will do? We will create one more variable called as a const, and we will write here what? Day number. Okay, now I will write here what? Day number is equal to date obj I will write. And what is the method we are going to use? Get day, right? So I'll just write it here with this parenthesis, and I will console that as well. So I will write here what? Console.log day number, okay? Let us test it in the terminal now. So I will write here what? Node day 44 challenge, and what do we get? We get here as a 4. Now this 4 is what? It is referring to Thursday. If you count here, Sunday is 0, Monday is 1, Tuesday is 2, Wednesday is 3, and Thursday is 4. So that means we are able to get it. But now here it is just a number. We will use this array and we will pass it like an index number. So let us come here and take this. So that is what I explained. So we are getting here 4. If you count it, what it is, 0 is Sunday, 1 is what, Monday, 2 is what, Tuesday, 3 is what, Wednesday, Thursday is what, 4. So you can see the index number is matching. That means we can use this day number as an index, right? This already I shown you. So that is what we are going to use it. And also I told you, you will get a number between 0 to 6. So we get here what, 4, right? Now what we will do, we will take this particular array and we will paste it here at the top, okay? And I will uncomment this out, okay? Now we have our array also and we have our index number also. Can we access it, right? So I will just write here what, console.log statement, okay? And in this I am going to pass what, day names, okay? And in this square bracket I am going to write our day number. So now you will see here when I run it in the terminal, you are getting it correctly as Thursday. Let us test it out. So now we are getting this correctly, right? In the terminal. So now we are getting this correctly. Now let us come here and improvise our console.log statement. So I will write here what, comma, and we will write here just the day of the week. I'll write here day of the week is Thursday. Okay, so let us rerun it. Clear the terminal and rerun it one more time. You get the day of the week is what, Thursday. So we are able to get this, right? Now what we will do, we can just invoke it, right, with another date. I will pass here what, 4th December, okay? So we will know, right, it should be Wednesday, right? So I will write here what, find day of week, and in this I will write 2024 hyphen 12 and hyphen I'm going to pass here what, 04. Let us see what do we get it, okay? So let us rerun it one more time and we get here what, 3, and we are getting Wednesday. So just a one day before we are getting Wednesday. We can invoke it with 6 also to check out, okay? So let us come here and we will write find day of week, and I will write here what, 2024 hyphen 12, and I will write here 06, okay? Now let us rerun it in the terminal. So you can see here we are getting Friday. So one day before is Wednesday, one day after is what, Friday, right? We are able to successfully get it. That means this is successfully running, right? Okay, now what we will do, we will clear the terminal and we will comment out other console.log statement. So I will comment out here line number 20, line number 22 also, and line number 25 also. And we will just clear the terminal and now we will just rerun it. Okay, so I'll write here what, node day 44 challenge, and I will hit enter. So if we see here, we are successfully getting this, right? The day of the week is what, Thursday, Wednesday and Friday. So we are able to get this successfully, right? And this is what it was expected from us, okay? So whenever you're passing any input here, it is going to convert it into a data object, and then you can use your get day method and you can get your day of the week, okay? So that is what we have to do here. So let us have a quick recap of this question. So what is this question? We have to write a function that takes a date and returns the corresponding day of the week, right? And it was given here as an input as what, 5th December, and the output was Thursday. So we came here, what, line number 7, we defined our function as what, find day of the week, right? And in line number 8, we understood that how can we return the corresponding day of the week. So what was the approach we used? We used our date constructor method, right? Since it is a constructor, we will have to use it with a new keyword. So that is what we have done. And after that, we got our date object. What does date object provide? It provides a method to extract the day of a week from a given date, okay? Now in the next line, what we have tested, we just tested that we are able to get our data object or not, right? So we understood here what, that we are able to get our data object, right? Now what was the method this data object was providing? Get day, right? And what does it return? It returns a number between 0 to 6. That is where we understood that if we create an array of all our days of the week, then we can easily access it. So 0 we will start from Sunday and 6 we will end at Saturday. So that is what we did, and even we consoled it, we were easily able to access this, right? This is normal our array accessing, right? So that is what we did. Now after that, what we did, we wrote our function here, function find day of week, and we were passing here date as a params, right? And we use the same array, right, which we have declared above. Okay, after that, what we have done, we have created our date object where we were passing our date. So we got our date object, and on this date object we used our get day method, right? And that gave me a number, right? What was the number? First time it gave me 4, then it gave me 3, and then later on it gave me 5. So accordingly we used it, and we used our simple array accessing. So this was our array day names, and we accessed it by our index number, right? So that is where we got our Thursday, Wednesday, and Friday, right? So we improvise this console.log statement, right? At line number 30, 31, and 32, what we did, we invoked it with a different date string, which were being accepted here, and it executed, and we got our line number 27 printed in our terminal. So let us come here and clear the terminal, and we will what do? We will rerun it. So we will write here what node day 44 challenge, and we are able to access this, right? So this is what it was being expected from us, and that is what we have successfully achieved it as well. Okay. Now, why this challenge is important, guys? Because understanding how to work with dates is a key skill for building apps that require time-based logic or displaying schedule. This type of problem is commonly asked in interviews and practical development tasks, such as building event calendars or reminders, etc. Now, this date object is quite powerful, and this get day method is just one of the many methods that can help you to manipulate and format the date easily. So try this function with your own dates to explore the days of the week. Let's move to our next challenge, and this challenge is getting the current date and time and displaying them in a readable format. Okay, so let's proceed with this challenge, and we will move to our VS Code. If we see in the VS Code, we have here our question along with the example output, right? So what is the question? That we have to write a function to return a current date and time in a readable format. And this is our sample output, right? Why it is only output? Because we need to get a current date and time. That means current right now. That's why we don't have an input right over here. So we have to get the current date and time, and we have to display it in a readable format. Okay. And this is our sample output. So first of all, what we will do, we will break this question, right? So I will write here what JS function we have to write. Okay. After that, what is the next important part of this question? That we have to get the current date and time in a readable format, right? So that also I will put it over here. Okay. Now this question is asking to get the current date and time in a readable format. So what we will do, we will come here and we will define our function name as what? Get current date time. So I will write here as well, get current date time with the parenthesis. So this will be our function name. Okay. Now what is written in the 7 line number? That we have to get the current date and time in a readable format. So let us understand the approach, how we are going to do it. So I will write here the approach. Okay. Now in this question, what we are going to use? We are going to use JavaScript date object. Okay. Now what is this date object do? It allows us to work with the date and time. It provides method for creating, manipulating, and formatting the date and values. Okay. So how we are going to do? We will be using here JavaScript date constructor function. Okay. So this date is nothing but a constructor function. And since it is a constructor function, we will have to create an instance of this, right? So we will be creating instance or the object of this date constructor function by using what? New keyword, right? So this is what we are going to do it. So how we will be writing? New date, that we have seen in the yesterday's challenge as well, right? So that is what we are going to do here as well. Now here we will be using another method. That time we used a get day method, right? So JavaScript date object method provides us many methods, right? So one of those method was what? Get day method. Today we are going to use it another method, okay? So what are the methods? So I'll just write here. We are going to use now two methods. Now what is the first method? The first method is nothing but to local, okay, date string method, okay? So I'll just write here with a parenthesis, and I will come down and here as well write to local time string method, okay? So let me just write here. So these are the two methods which we are going to use it. Now we can easily understand here there is a date, there is a string, there is a time, there is a string, and there is two local. So what it is going to give us? It will return a string representation, okay, of the current date. So I'll just write here what? Current date. Here as well, it is going to give us what? String representation of the current time, okay? So this is what we are going to use this method, and it will be in a local date and time format. So it will give us the string representation of the current date in a local date format, okay? So I'll just write here what? Local date format. And here it is going to return us what? String representation of the current date in a local time format. So this also I will write it here, okay? Now, so this is what we are going to use it, and this will be our approach, okay? So it will be what? Local date format and local time format, right? So how it is going to represent? It will be represent your month, then there will be your date, and then there will be your year, like this. And this will be what? It will be hour, and it will be minutes, and it will be seconds. And along with it, it is going to provide you the AM, PM also. If it is evening, it will give you PM. If it is morning, it is going to give you AM, okay? So this is what it is going to give you. So let us create a date object. So how can we create it? I will declare here one variable called as a const now. And what we can write here? New, and then date, and our parenthesis, right? So this will create an instance of it, right? And we will get our date object. And on this now we are going to use our these two methods. So how we will write? Now dot to local date string. See, you are getting it directly. And here what you will write? Now dot to local time string. So this is how we are going to use it. And this is what is the complete approach. We are going to use it in our function as well. So I will just comment it right now. And now let us proceed ahead by creating a function. So let us come here and write down our function. So I will write here what? Function. And our function will be what? Get current date and time, correct? And I will quickly invoke it as well, okay? So get current date and time. Now in this particular question, we are not going to pass any argument. Why? Because we need to get the current date and time. So I am not going to pass any argument, and hence there will be no params here, okay? So we are not going to receive any parameter. So just to test this function, whether it is running or not, I will just write what? Console.log, and I will write here what? Get current date and time, okay? I will just write it here. And let us now just test it in the terminal, okay? So I'll write here what? Node day 45 challenge, right? And I will hit enter. So what do we get? Get current date and time, right? So this is what we are able to get it. So that means our function is successfully running, right? Now after that, what we will do here is we will come and now we will start creating our data object, and we will use our method. So same, we are going to create a variable and we will keep the same name. So what we will do, we will come here and we will create what? Const now is equal to new, and we will use our date constructor function here. And this is going to give us what? Current date and time, right? I will just console this out. So console.log, now I will write it. And let us come here and I will write here what? Node day 45 challenge, and I will hit enter. So what do I get? I get here date, and we are getting the time zone as well, right? Now we have to separate them and we have to make it in a readable format as well. Okay, so now what we are going to do this on this, now we will be using our both the methods. Okay, so let us come here and write it what? Now dot to local date string. Okay, and I will write here what? Now dot to local time string. Okay. Now, since this is going to give us the date and this is going to give us the time, so let us come here and store them into date and time. So I will create a variable called as a const. Date is equal to, and I will write here what? Const time is equal to. Okay. And now let us console this both of them. Okay. So we will come here and we will console it out. So what I will write here? Console.log date comma time. Okay. So let us just test it in our terminal now. No day 45 challenge, and I will hit enter. What do we get? We get here date and we get here time. So that is what I explained, how we are getting month, date and year. And here we are getting what? Hour, minutes and seconds, and along with the AM and PM time as well, right? So this is what it was expected from us. Okay. Now we will just improvise the console.log statement. So I will put this into a template literal and this date and time into a dollar and a flower braces, right? So let us pass it here, and this also dollar and a flower braces. So we will get the same output now. Now what we will do, I will just write here what? Date colon, and we will write here what? Time colon, and we can just write here current date. Okay, because it's a current date. So let us write here current date and we will write here current time. Okay. And let us just test it out in the terminal. What do we get? So I will write here what? Node day 45 challenge, and I will hit enter. So we get here what? Current date and the current time. So now what we will do, in place of comma, we will just put and I will rerun it in the terminal. So I will write here what? Node day 45 challenge, and I will hit enter, right? So we get here what? Current date and current time also. So let us come here and let us rerun it. So what do we get here? We get our current date and we got our current time as well. Okay. So let us have a quick recap of this particular question. So what it was being asked, that we have to write a function to return a current date and time in a readable format, right? And we were given our sample output as well. Okay. So now what we did in line number 6 and 7, we just understood and we broke down this particular question, right? So we wrote here JavaScript function and we defined our function name, right? Like get current date time. After that, in line number 7, we understood how to get our current date and time in a readable format. So down we have written the approach. Okay. So what was the approach? We used what? JavaScript date object, which allows us to create date and time, and it provides methods for creating, manipulating and formatting date and time values, right? So how can we do that? We used our date constructor function, correct? And which helps us to create the instance of it along with the new keyword. So that is what we did. And we used our two methods, that is two local date string and two local time string. What does it return? It returns the string representation of the current date in a local date format. And this one, it returns the string representation of the current time in a local time format. And this was the format what it was returning, right? We understood how we can get the date object, right? And on that date object, we use our both the methods, right? That is what we have done. So in line number 20, what we did, we created a function called as a get current date and time. And we neither passed our argument and neither received a params because we wanted to get a current date and time. So that can be easily doable with the help of our date constructor function. So that is what we have done, and we got our date object, right? And using that date object, we got our date and time. How? On that date object, that was our, now we used our local date string method and we used our local time string method, right? And at the end of the day, we just consoled here with an improvised one, that is a current date and the current time. And we invoked it normally. We don't have to do multiple invocations. If you want to see it, you can just test it here one more time. Now it will just differ your time, that to the minutes. Okay, so it was earlier 29, now it is 35, right? So this is what we have got it here. So this is what it was expected from us. Okay, now why this challenge is important? Displaying the current date and time is essential in real world application, such as showing timestamps, scheduling the task, or logging the events. Okay, so this date object is one of the oldest and widely used objects in the JavaScript. Yet it remains a powerful tool for time and date manipulation. Let's move to our next challenge, and this challenge is all about to check if a date is a future date or not. So here we will have to determine whether the date lies in the future if it is compared to the current date. So let's proceed with this challenge and we will move to our VS Code. In the VS Code, if we see, we have here our question, right, along with the sample input and output. Okay. So let us read out this question. What we have to do, we have to write a JavaScript function that takes a date as an input and returns true if it is in the future, otherwise false. So this is our sample input given to us and this is our output. Okay, so we have to compare it with the current date, whatever the input date will be provided to us. So we will come here and we will first break down this particular question. I will write here what JavaScript function. Okay, that's the first thing. After that, what it is written in this question that we have to take date as an input. Okay, so this also I will put it here. And what after that it is written that it should return true. So when it should return true, when it's a future date, right? So I will take this and I will put it over here, future date. Otherwise, it should return what? It should return false. So I will write here what? Past date. So for the past date, it should be false. For the future date, it should be true. Okay. Now, since this question is related to the future date and the past date, so we will come here and we will define our function as what is future date like this. Okay. So let us come here and write here is future date with a parenthesis. Okay. Let us come here and understand the approach. Okay. So I will write here the approach. And in this question, we are going to use our date constructor function. Now, by this time, many of y'all would have already guessed that we are going to use a date constructor function itself. Why? Because in the previous challenges, we have used it and also we have understood how to use that and how can we use the methods of the date constructor function, right? So how do we write this date constructor function? By using a new keyword, right? So let us see what does the new keyword do. New keyword helps us to create a instance of the date object, right? So how we write it? We are going to write it like this, right? New date with a parenthesis, right? Now, this what it do? It generates the current date and time, right? So it generates what? Current date and time. This all we are going to see it in the console, okay, right now. So in this question, we are going to use this new date with the parenthesis. Let us see how. So what I will do it, I will just write here what? Console.log, and in this I am going to write what? New and date with a parenthesis. And now let us just test in the terminal what we get it over here. So we will just test up here. So I will write here what? Node day 46 challenge and I will hit enter. Okay. So what do we get? I get the today's date and my current timestamp. So this is what? Current date and timestamp I am getting it. Now in this we can pass our date which we are getting it from this input, right? So I will take this date input and I will pass it here and we will see what do we get. So I write here what? Console.log and I will write here what? New date. And in this double quotes, I will pass that date string. Okay. Now let us rerun it one more time. So I will write here node day 46 challenge and I will hit enter. So what do we see here? In the first here, we are getting the current date and time. And in the second line, what we are getting here, it is 1st January 2025, which has been passed here. And since I'm not passing the timestamp, it is giving me 00, right? So this is what is the difference between both of them. So now we can see what is the current date, what is the future date. So we are going to compare it. How we are going to compare it? We will be using here the operator. What is the operator? Greater than operator we will be using. So what is a greater than operator? It is this operator. So we are going to use this. So what we will write here, that this new date, okay, this new date with the string which we are passing, if this is greater than, okay, if this is greater than the current date, then we have to say that it's a future date, right? Then only we will say. So if we are doing this, then I will write here what? It's a future date, okay? Otherwise, it's a past date. If it turns out to be false, then it would be what? Past date, right? So I am going to write it like this. So to achieve this future date, past date, the conditions are met. So what we will do, we will be using here if else statement, okay? And in the if condition, we will be passing out this condition. And if it turns out to be true, it will give me a future date. If it turns out to be false, it will go to the else block and it will give me the past date. Okay. This is what we are going to use it. So once again, I will repeat it. If the input date is greater than our current date, okay, then it will return true, indicating that it's a future date. Otherwise, it is going to return as false. So I will write here what true, okay, and I'll write here what false, correct? So this is what it is going to do. So otherwise, it is going to return false, indicating that it's a past date. Okay, so this is what is the approach we are going to use it. Now we will come down and we will create our function. So let's jump right into the code now from here. So we will come here and what we will do, we will write our function. And what is our function name we have decided? That is future date with a parenthesis, right? So I will invoke it. Now in this question, I am going to pass my input string, right? So we have to pass our argument. So I will take this from here because this was the sample input, right? So I will take this 1st January 2025 and let us pass it over here in the double quotes. Okay, so this is what our argument, and I will receive here as what params. So I will just write here as a date. And now let us just console our date and see whether we are able to get it or not. So I will write here date and we will come in the terminal and we will rerun this particular file. So we will write no day 46 challenge and I will hit enter. So what do we get? We get our date string. That means this function is running. We have written a correct function. Okay. So I will just comment it out. Otherwise, whenever we are running this file, we will get the timestamp and the date from here. Okay. So that is why I commented out. Now we will come here and we will complete our comparison. Okay. So what we will do, I will write here what if statement. Okay. And in this, we are supposed to pass our condition. So what is a condition? New date, and in this we will pass our date, right? So if you see here, we are passing the string here. So this is nothing but our date itself. It is going to receive here, and this we are using here, right? And the sign will be what? Greater than sign, correct? And then I will write once again new date with a parenthesis, right? And here I will write flower braces. Right now I'm just writing console.log true, okay? Later on, I will take it from the sample output, what it is actually printing. So I will write here true, and we will come here in the else block and I will write here what? False. So console.log false, I will write it. Now let us run it in the terminal once again. So I will write here what? No day 46 challenge and I will hit enter. So what do we get? We got here true. That means yes, it's a future date, right? Currently we are at what? 3rd December 2024. That is what we were getting again and again, right? Whenever I was running, I was getting this particular date, right? So obviously it is the future date. We can also see. And this function is also executing as for us the same. So it's a future date, right? So now let us come here and we had one more input, right? So let us take this input as well. So what we will do, we will come here and we will invoke it one more time. I will write here is future date and I will pass this particular string. Now what it is 1st December 2024. That means 2 days before. So obviously it is a past date. So it should give me a false, right? So let us come here and we will write what? No day 46 challenge and I will hit enter. So what do we get? Yes, we are getting what? False. So for this particular date, 1st January 2025, we are getting true. And for a date 1st December 2024, which was 2 days before, we are getting false. That means it's a past date, right? Now we will come here and we will write it the way it was expected from us. So true, it's an future date. So I will take it here and I will put it over here in this double quotes, right? And now once again, we will go for the false statement also. And I will take this and I will put it over here, okay? So then let us update this and now we will just come here and we will clear the terminal and we will rerun it, okay? So note day 46 challenge and I will hit enter. So what do we get? Yes, it's a future date, and false, it's an past date. So we are able to successfully get this, right? So this is what it was expected from us, guys. So this question was demanding from us that whenever we are passing a date from here, it should check whether it's a future date or not. That is where we have written just our if else condition. There can be more ways to solve this, but I found this approach very simpler and easiest one. So we can follow this approach, okay? We will just comment this out, line number 22, and we will save here and we will clear the terminal one more time and we will rerun it, okay? Now what do we get? True, it's an future date. False, it's an past date for both of them. If you want, you can pass here date also and you can more improvise your console.log statement, okay? So let's have a quick recap of this question. So what we have to do here is we have to write a function that takes a date as an input and returns true if it's in a future, otherwise false. And it was being given us sample input and output as well, right? So at line number 7, what we did, first of all, we have break down this question, right? So we wrote our JavaScript function here and we defined our function name as what is future date with a parenthesis. And in line number 8, we understood that if we take date as an input, it has to be printed as true if it's a future date, otherwise print false if it is a past date, right? So at line number 10, we wrote our approach and we understood that we have to use a date constructor function to work with the date and time, right? And here we used a new keyword. Why? Because it is used to create a new instance of a date object, right? So how do we write it? We write new space date with a parenthesis, and this is going to give us what? Current date and time. And we just tested here how it is going to be used in our function. So what we wrote at line number 15, console.log new date with a parenthesis, and it gave me what? Current date and time, right? So we were getting here current date and we were getting here the date which we were passing it, right? And the timestamp were 0, and here we got the timestamp as the current timestamp, right? So we easily understood that by comparing it, we can easily get our desired output, right? So then if we have to compare, we will have to use a comparison operator, right? So what we wrote in the left side, with a new date, the date string which we have to pass it, right? The sample input we passed it. And here the current date, that is new date with a parenthesis, right? And if this turns out to be true, give me a future date. And if this turns out to be false, give me a past date. And for that, we used what? If else statement, right? So if this condition is true, give me the future date as a true, and otherwise give me the past date. So we used here what? If else statements. We came here at line number 21 and we wrote our function, and the function name was what? Is future date, correct? In the parenthesis, we are receiving the params as a date, right? Then we went inside and we use our if else statement and we wrote our condition, right? And then we got our console.log statement here, right? That true, it's a future date. And in a else block, we wrote our false statement that yes, it's a false statement and it's a past date, right? So that is how we wrote our if condition, and we properly wrote our console.log statement as well as per the output, correct? And then at line number 30 and 31, we invoked it properly with the different arguments, right? So I will clear this terminal, and once again, I will write here what? Node day 46 challenge, and I will hit enter. What do I get? True and false. That is what it was expected from us, right? So this is what we have done it. You can try out with different input date strings, okay? Why this challenge is important, I'll tell you guys. Because working with the dates is a fundamental task in many applications, from scheduling systems to reminders and event plannings, right? JavaScript date object is highly versatile, allowing for easy comparison, formatting, and calculations. Let's move to our next challenge, and this challenge is all about to check whether a given date falls on a weekend or not. So we have to check if a given date is a weekend day or not. So with this, now we will proceed with our challenge and we will move to our VS Code. If we see in the VS Code, we have our question along with the sample input and output, right? So what is the question? It is written, write a JS function that takes a date as input and determines if it falls on a weekend, right? And what is a weekend? Saturday or Sunday is our weekend, right? So that also it is mentioned clearly here. And what is the input? 1st December, right? So if we check 1st December in the calendar, it falls on Sunday. That is why it is a weekend day, right? And our sixth line number, what it is mentioned, another input is given, right? So the input is what? 3rd December. It was yesterday, right? So it was Tuesday. So it's not a weekend. So if we see here properly, it has been mentioned, right? It's a weekend day and it's not a weekend day. So this we have to find out. Okay. So first of all, what we will do, we will come here and we will break down this particular question. So I will write here what? JS function. Okay. And what is the next important part in this question? That we have to determine that if the date given falls on a weekend or not, right? So I will take this and I will put it over here as well. Now, since this question is demanding us to check whether the given date falls on a weekend or not, so we will come here and we will define our function name as what is weekend, okay? So we will write here is weekend with the parenthesis, and we will make this W as well capital, okay? So this will be our function name, okay? Now let us come here and understand this, how we are going to determine whether the given date falls on a weekend or not. So we will start with our approach. Let us come here and write down the approach. So I will just write here the approach. And in this question, we are going to use what? Date constructor function, okay? So I'll just write here what? Constructor function. Now, since it is a constructor function, we have to use it with a new keyword, right? What this new keyword will do, it will create an instance of it, right? So that is what we are going to do here. And now how we are going to write it? New space date with a parenthesis, right? And it will create what? Date object, right? And this date object is going to give us what? Current date and time. So that also I will write here, okay? Now in this question, we are not going to deal with the current date and time. We have to take date as an input, right? And then we have to determine that whether that date is a weekend or not, right? So I will take this input string and I will be writing it over here, okay? And where we are going to pass this input string, we will be passing to our date constructor function. So how we are going to write? New space date, and inside this we are going to pass it. And now what we are going to get? We will be getting the date and time with respect to the input string which we are passing, okay? Now since here we don't have a time, so we will get here 00, but we will get the date. So we will get here what? Date and time, okay? So I'll just write here, and the time will be 00 because we have not mentioned here anything. So let us just test it out. So I will write here what? Console.log, and I will write here new date with the parenthesis, and I am not going to pass here anything. Let us keep it as empty. And after this, what I will write? One more time, let us write console.log, and I will write here what? New date, and inside this we are going to pass our string, okay? So let us test it out in our terminal. Now what we will write here? Node day 47 challenge, right? So I will hit enter, and what we get here? First we are getting what? Current date and time, that is 4th December, and the time as well, right? Timestamp we are getting. But here, as I said, we will be getting 0, so we are getting 00, right? But the date it is captured properly, that it is 1st December 2024, right? So this is what we are going to use it, okay? But here the line number 15 we are not going to use. We will be using line number 16, okay? Because we will get our date from here, okay? So now in this question, we will be using this because we are not going to work with the current date and time. So we have to use here line number 16, okay? Now this date object also provides us the method, and we have seen this method, okay, in the previous challenges. The same method we are going to use here again. The method name is what? GetDay method. So this method can be used to extract the day of the week. But this method will not provide you directly Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. No. It will provide you an integer value ranging from 0 to 6. Okay. So if you refer back your day of the week, if I write here, what we have? It starts from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? So if you correspondingly see, we get what? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So if you refer here, Sunday is 0, Monday is 1, Tuesday is 2, Wednesday is 3, Thursday is 4, Friday is 5, and Saturday will be what? 6. So now we want a weekend, right? So I will write here what weekend. So when will be the weekend from this? If it is 0, it will be Sunday, and if it is 6, it will be Saturday, right? So at 0 and 6, you will be able to get it, right? Weekend. So we can write a condition that if our day of the week, which we are going to get from this get day method, if it is 0, then it is a weekend, or if it is a 6, then also it is a weekend. So then we will be using our pipe symbol, that is nothing but a or operator, to check whether the day is a either 0 or either 6. If it is 0, it can be considered as a weekend because it is Sunday. If it is 6 also, it can be considered as a weekend because it is a Saturday. Okay, so where we will write, we will be using our if else statement as well. Okay, and in this if else statement, we will be writing here a condition that whether this will be 0 or 6, you give me a true value. That what will be the true value? That's a weekend. And in the else, we will be getting our false value. That is nothing but not a weekend, right? So here we will be printing our false value stating that it's not a weekend. And here, if it is matches the condition, it will return us true, and it will give us what? It's a weekend day. So this is what we are going to do it over here. So we have to use our if else statement also along with our date constructor function. Okay, and then we can just console the appropriate message based on the day of the week. Okay, so that is what we are going to do. So let us write here what? Const date obj. This will hold our date object. Okay, so I will write here new date, and we will pass our date which we are receiving as a params. Okay, so if you console it, you will get your date object. So let us come here and write here date object, and we can just test it in our terminal. So I'll write no day 47 challenge, and I will hit enter. So what do we get? We got our date object, right? So here we have our current date and time as well. So now let us come here, and what we will do, we will use our method on this. So once again, we will declare a variable called as a const day, okay? Because I need to get the day of the week, right? So I will write here what? Const day is equal to date obj dot get day method. You can see it is coming, right? So it's an object and it is giving me, right? So now if you console your day, you will get an integer value. Let us see here what do we get. So I will come here and we will run it out in the terminal. So I will write here no day 47 challenge, and I will hit enter. So what do we get? We got here what? 0. That means it is a weekend, right? So it is starting from 0 to 6. And if you check in your calendar, it was a Sunday itself. So you can go and check this out. So that is why we are getting here as a 0. So now what we will do, now it is only for the 0 we have got. We have to check it for 6 also, right? So we can pass another input string also, which we can get it for 6. So we can pass 7th December also, or we can pass 14 December like that also. That is all Saturdays. We got here what? 0. So this we can easily understand that if it is 0, it is a Sunday, right? Now when we will get Saturday, when it comes out 6, right? You can check the other dates also. You will get the integer value ranging from 0 to 6 itself. Okay. Now what we will do, we will come here and we will test a condition here that if our day is equal to 0, or our day is equal to 6. So we will have to use a comparison operator along with the or operator. Okay. So we will have to check whether it is a weekend, right? So we will check, we have written, right, if it's a 0 or if it's a 6. So we will have to use here comparison operator as well. So day is equal to 0 and day is equal to 6. If that is the case, you just console here what? I will just write here console.log true right now. I will write in the double quotes as a string, and we will come here in an else part. I will write here what? Console.log false. Okay. So let us just rerun it one more time and let us see what do we get here. So I will come here and I will run it. No day 47 challenge, and I will hit enter. What do I get? True. That means this condition is getting satisfied. Okay. So if you see here, we have passed here what? 1st December. That was nothing but Sunday, right? Now I will pass here what? 7th December. Okay. So let us come here and we will invoke it one more time. Is weekend, and we can just write here what? 2024 hyphen 12, and I will write here what? 7. Okay. So let us see what do we get. So we will come here and rerun it. So we will write node day 47 challenge and I will hit enter. What do I get? I got here 6 as a true because this is a Saturday date and this is a Sunday. If you change in between, you will get the false value also. So let us clear the terminal first and we will come here and we will invoke it one more time. Is weekend and let us pass here what? 2024 and I will pass 12 and let us pass yesterday's date, that is 03. Okay, let us see what do we get in that case. So let us come here and rerun it now. What do we get? If you see here, we are getting a false statement, right? Why we are getting a false statement? Because integer value is 2 and we have clearly seen here that if it is 0 and if it is 6, then only it will be a weekend, right? Saturday, Sunday, correct? So that is where it is not giving us a true value. It is giving us a false value. Now what we will do, we will improvise our console.log statement. Okay, so we will come here and we will take this input string and we will put it over here. Okay, so let us update this. So I will remove this true and in place of that, I'm going to put it here like this. And here what we have to write, it's not a weekend day, right? So I'll remove this also and I will take here and I'll write, it's not a weekend day. And let us come here and we will clear the terminal and we will rerun it. And let us see what do we get. So if we see here, we are getting, it's a weekend day, it's a weekend day. And here it's not a weekend day. And if you see, we have tested for the first also, we have tested for the 3rd December also. Okay, so that means both the inputs we have passed here. Okay, now let us just comment out other console.log. So we will comment out our line number 23, line number 26 also, and line number 29 as well. Okay, and let us clear the terminal and rerun it. So we will come here and we will write here node day 47 challenge and we will hit enter. So what do we get? It's a weekend day. It's a weekend day. It's not a weekend day, right? If you want, you can take your date string here as well and you can just write it. So let us come here and do that as well. So date I will write and let us put here comma. Okay. So that is what we have done here. So let us come here and here also I will write your date and I will put comma. Okay. So let us rerun it and see what do we get. So here we will come and we see here, it's a weekend day. It's a weekend day. It's not a weekend. If you want, you can put here colon also. So then it will add a colon as well. Okay. So let us check that as well. So clear the terminal. So what do we get here if we see this date? 1st December is a weekend day. 7th December is a weekend day. But this one is not a weekend day, right? 3rd December. So we are successfully able to get this. Okay. So this is what it was expected from us. Okay. Now let us have a quick recap of this particular question. Okay. So what it was been asked, it was asked to write a function that takes a date as an input and determine if it falls on a weekend or not, right? And they have given our input string as also 2 input string they gave. We tested with 3 input strings, right? And then what they said in the output, you have to write it's a weekend day, it's not a weekend day, right? So what we did at line number 9, we just understood the question and we analyzed and we defined our function name as what is weekend. And in that question, this was the important part, right? That we have to determine that if it falls on a weekend or not. So we wrote our approach. So what was the approach? That we have to use our date constructor function. In that we used a new keyword. Why? Because since we are using a constructor function, we have to use a new keyword. So new date with a parenthesis. And what does it return? It returns a date object, right? So that is where we tested, right? So in line number 14, we took this input string and we passed the input string to this date constructor function, right? And we got our relevant date and the time was 00 because we did not mention any time, right? So that is why it gave us a time as a 00, okay? And here we tested out that as well, line number 15 and line number 16, okay? In line number 17, we used a get day method which is being provided by our date object. What does this method do? It is going to return the integer values, right? 0 to 6. So this method can help us to extract the day of the week, right? And this method returns the integer value from 0 to 6, right? So that is where we understood that 0 will be what? Sunday, 1 will be what? Monday, and so on, right? So that is what clearly we have written here as well, right? So we understood that from this, that when we will have a weekend, when it is 0 and when it is 6, right? So that we tested out with our if condition, right? So in our if condition, we pass that if whatever the day we are getting, if it is 0, it will be considered as a weekend day. If it is a 6, it will be considered as a weekend day, right? So if it is not 0 and 6, then it will be considered that it is not a weekend day. So we used our comparison operator and OR operator to complete this particular question. So now we came to our line number 20. So we used in this question the comparison operator and the OR operator, and then we just console our appropriate message, right, based on the day of the week, correct? So now what we did in our line number 22, what was the approach we have written above from line number 12 to 19? We just put it as a code, right? So what we have done, we came here at line number 22 and we defined our function as is weekend, and we were receiving a date as a params, right? And then we console this to test it out that the function is running fine or not. Okay, then we created our date object and we consoled as well, right? And from that date object we used our get day method, and what this was returning, this was returning a integer value from 0 to 6, right? We tested with different inputs as well, it was returning us a 0 to 6 integer value. Then using that, what we did, this day variable was having our integer value, right? So we came at line number 22 and we defined our function name as is weekend, and we were receiving our params, right, as a date. And we consoled here to check whether the function is running fine or not, right? After that, we created our date object where we were passing our param, right? So that is what we have done here, and we consoled it out and we tested in the terminal also, right? And then on this date object, we used our get day method, right, which was returning our integer value, right, from 0 to 6, right? So that is what we stored it in our day, correct? So at line number 31, we used our if condition and we tested that if our day is holding 0 or if our day is holding 6, then you please print it's a weekend day. Otherwise, you print it's not a weekend day, right? And we also improvise the console by passing the date as well here. Okay, so we can see that out. And after that, what we did from line number 37 to 39, we invoked this function. So at line number 37 to 39, we invoked this function 3 times with different input string, and we saw that we were getting the exact output. Okay, so let us come here and clear the terminal and we will just test it out once again. So I will write here what node day 47 challenge and I will hit enter. So we get here proper with respect to each date we have printed that whether it's a weekend or not, right? So that is what we have done. So this is what it was expected from us, right? So I'll tell you why this challenge is important, because working with the days of the week is essential in applications like scheduling, event management, and calendars as well. I hope you found this challenge is helpful for your coding journey. Keep practicing, keep improving, and have a great day. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Code with Poonam for more coding challenges, interview preparations, and JavaScript tricks. Also, let me know in the comment section which problem you found the most interesting or the challenging one. I would love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Happy coding, guys.